Okay, picture this. You say to your AI, hey, plan a weekend mountain trip for me. And it just does it. It books the cabin, it pulls up the weather forecast, it even makes a packing list for you. Sound like science fiction? Well, it's not anymore. We're talking about AI agents, the huge leap from AI that just talks to AI that actually does stuff. Let's get right into it.
I mean, you've totally been there, right? You ask your chatbot for today's flight prices and it hits you with, sorry, I can't access real-time information. Or you ask it to schedule a meeting and you get that polite little, I'm afraid I can't do that. Most AI today is like a genius who's locked in a library. They know a ton, but they're stuck in a box, completely cut off from the real live world.
And that really gets to the heart of the huge shift that's happening right now. We're moving from an AI that talks to an AI that works. See, a talking AI is like that super smart librarian who can find any fact in any book, but can't actually leave the building. An AI that works, on the other hand, is like a real personal assistant. It doesn't just find the info. It can then go online, book those flights, and put it on your calendar. It's the difference between knowing and doing. So, how do we actually make that leap? In this first part, we're going to break down what it takes to turn our AI from a simple conversationalist into a true active partner in our digital lives.
So what exactly is an AI agent? Honestly, it all comes down to one key word: autonomy. Yeah, it's built on top of a large language model, the same kind of brain that's inside a chatbot. But here's where the magic happens. We give it the ability to perceive its environment, to make a plan, and, this is the big one, to use tools to get a job done with minimal human help. Just think about that for a second. You don't have to handhold it. You just give it a goal and it figures out how to get there. It's a total game changer.
Okay, so what's actually inside one of these things? How do we level up a standard chatbot and turn it into a powerful agent? Let's pop the hood and look at the anatomy.
All right, so to build an agent, first things first, you need a brain. And in the AI world, that brain is a large language model, or an LLM for short. This is the core of its intelligence. It's what lets it understand what you're asking, reason through problems, and come up with ideas. This is our foundation.
Next up, we bolt on a planning module. This is huge. Instead of just reacting to one simple prompt at a time, planning lets the AI look at a big, messy goal, like, say, find the best sales leads from last quarter, and break it down into smaller, bite-sized steps. It's basically creating its own to-do list, its own strategy.
Then we give it memory. And this is absolutely critical. Memory lets the agent remember what it did, what the results were, what worked, and what totally didn't. It means it can learn from its mistakes and change its plan as it goes, instead of having the memory of a goldfish and starting fresh every single time. And finally, we get to the last piece of the puzzle, the real secret sauce: tools. Tools are what let the agent's brain actually connect to the real world. A tool could be a web search, access to your calendar, or even the power to write and run computer code. See, without tools, an LLM is just a talker. But with tools, it becomes a doer. And that's the moment it truly becomes an agent. Okay, so we've built our agent. We've given it a brain, planning, memory, and tools. But how does it actually think? Like, what's really going on in its head when it's trying to solve a problem? Let's take a look inside at its thought process. One of the most popular ways agents think is using a framework called REACT. It stands for reasoning and acting. And the idea behind it is just beautifully simple. It means the agent is constantly blending its thinking with its doing in a continuous cycle. It doesn't just rush into action, but it also doesn't get stuck in analysis paralysis. It's the perfect mix of both.
And you know what? This whole loop is actually pretty simple. It just boils down to 3 steps that it repeats over and over. First, there's the thought. This is where the agent basically talks to itself, saying something like, okay, to answer this, I first need to find out where the user is. Then comes the action. It actually does something, like using its web search tool. And finally, the observation. It looks at what happened, like, okay, the search says the user is in Seattle. And it just keeps going through that cycle, thought, action, observation, again and again, until the job is done.
This is probably the best way to think about it. You know how in math class your teacher always told you to show your work? That's exactly what the REACT loop does. Because the agent writes down its thought process for every step, we can see exactly why it did what it did. That transparency is so important for helping us trust the outcome.
Now, REACT isn't the only game in town. There are other ways for agents to think. For instance, a plan and execute agent will try to map out every single step in advance before it does anything. And as you can see, there are trade-offs. REACT is generally faster and more adaptable, while the other approach might be a bit more accurate for really complicated tasks.
The point is, developers can pick the right thinking style for the job.
All right, so we've talked about what these agents are and how they work. But now let's get to the most important question of all. So what? Why should you care about any of this? Let's talk about the real-world impact. I absolutely love this quote because it just frames it perfectly. Think about it. You wouldn't hire a new employee and give them the keys to the kingdom on day one, would you? Of course not. You'd start them off with smaller, well-defined tasks, and you'd supervise them. That is the exact right way to think about bringing AI agents into a workflow.
So what this all boils down to is pretty clear. If you're a developer, learning how to build these agents is quickly becoming one of the most valuable skills you can have. If you're a business leader, now's the time to start looking for those boring, repetitive tasks that could be automated. And for the rest of us, it means we need to start thinking differently about AI. We're moving from a world where we give machines step-by-step instructions to one where we just give them our goals.
But, of course, giving this much power and autonomy to an AI system is a really big deal. It comes with a massive amount of responsibility. We have to be incredibly careful and thoughtful about how we build these things to make sure they're safe, reliable, and actually helpful. There are a few things that are just non-negotiable. First, we have to be on the lookout for hidden biases in the data they're trained on, because an agent can easily amplify those. Second, we need those clear audit trails. Remember showing your work? We have to be able to see every thought and every action to hold it accountable. And maybe most important of all, human oversight. The point isn't to create fully autonomous systems that we can't control. The goal is to build powerful tools that we can control.
This all rolls up into one really important concept: building corrigible agents. It's a fancy word, but it just means building systems that are designed to be corrected by a human. No matter how smart or capable they get, we always need to have that off switch, that ability to step in and say, whoa, stop, that's wrong, do this instead. That's the key to making this all work safely.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought. Now that you've seen what's becoming possible, if you had an AI assistant that could reliably handle pretty much any task you could do on a computer, what's the first thing you'd give it to do? The future is agentic, it's coming fast, and it is going to be wild. Thanks so much for tuning in.